class. It is Friday, April 24th. We are on chapter 15 of Percy Jackson's The Lightning Thief, and I'm so excited. We have kind of a long chapter to get to today, and we have a new objective. So let's talk a little bit about that first. So today we're going to be working on analyzing the setting, which is not new, and then the mood of the story. So what you need to know is the mood is the feeling of a scene or a short part of the story. It's how the writer's words make you feel. We're going to watch a quick video on that, but before we do that, I want to talk about how we determine the mood. So authors do a few things to help you feel and determine the mood. The first thing is the setting. The setting can kind of create a mood for the story. So yesterday, we talked about the setting of chapter 13 and chapter 14. The setting of chapter 13 was up on the top of the arch. So the mood of that story made me feel a little bit scared, and it also was kind of dangerous. So I would say it was like a scary, dangerous mood. Then when they're in the water, we're going to talk about that in a little bit, okay? So that's definitely one part, the setting. Going into the setting is that descriptive language. So the author's choice of words can help you determine the mood as well. So you'll notice that as we're practicing this today. And then finally, just what is happening, the event. So again, when they're on the top of that, top of the arch, there's like a fight going on. So that's definitely going to help add to the mood. So I have a quick video for us to watch. So I want you to watch this here.
Mood is the feeling that you get from a work of literature or art. Another way to describe mood is atmosphere. When you walk into a place, it has an atmosphere that makes you feel a certain way. When you walk into a story, it too has an atmosphere that makes you feel a certain way. The mood of a story can be calm, annoyed, frantic, joyful, gloomy, romantic, hopeful, or tense. How might you describe the mood of this video right now? Sweet and playful, right? How about now?
So there you'll notice that the music changed the mood. Now, authors and books, we don't have music. So we have to rely on the words that the author uses to create the setting and to create the mood.
See how the music changes the mood? But authors can't use music in their writing. So what do they use? Word choice, imagery, and setting. Let's look.
When we think about imagery, we're thinking of that descriptive language that helps us visualize the story. So it's the same thing.
Look at some examples. Listen to this sentence. The bloodthirsty lion stalked the savannah, hungrily eyeing the helpless creatures around him. Pay attention to the circled words.
So those circled words are your descriptive language, just like we talked about last week. Bloodthirsty, stalked, hungrily, eyeing, helpless. That's descriptive language.
What mood do they create?
And the descriptive language creates a mood.
Now listen to this sentence. The majestic lion roamed the savannah, proudly gazing at the creatures around him. How has the mood changed? Which words helped create this mood?
So now if you're looking, the words probably majestic, roamed, proudly gazing. Those are the descriptive language in that one, and it creates a totally different mood than the last descriptive languages. We're going to move on. I want you to see one more thing.
Mood.
The
Like
setting
in this
helps create
scene.
mood.
What time is it? Tim asked Jacob. All around them, taxicabs honked their horns as hordes of people in suits pushed by on their way into office buildings. What is the setting? What mood does the setting create? Now imagine.
Pause. So back there, I would say the setting is rush hour traffic in like a big city, like Chicago or New York or something. And the mood to me is like busy or hectic there.
The same scene, but in a completely different setting. Like this one. What time is it? Tim asked Jacob. Weak moonlight cast shadows over the crumbling gravestones. A lone owl hooted somewhere in the darkness above. How has the setting changed the mood?
So now the setting is going to be a little bit scary, kind of like suspicious and worrisome. So we're going to continue. That's what we're going to be talking about today, the mood, how the setting makes you feel, how the words in the story make you feel. Okay? So let's go back to our story. So first, we'll talk about an example from yesterday. So when you think about the setting from yesterday in the beginning of chapter 14, which words best describe the mood when Percy is underwater in the river? So is it murky and dreamlike? Is it hectic and noisy? Is it melancholy and glum? Is it petrifying and dark? So the first thing I want to think about is I want to think back to that setting. So he was underwater. He kind of had a vision of his mom. He said it was kind of gross under there and muddy. But he was dry. He didn't seem scared at all. So, first of all, it's not noisy. So I'm going to take that one out because I know that's not my answer. It didn't talk about it being, it was just him down there. There wasn't really any noise. There was a catfish. Melancholy and glum. Melancholy means sad. He wasn't really sad. He was kind of like impressed that he was down there, and like glum, like he wasn't in a bad mood down there. So I wouldn't say that. Petrifying and dark. Petrifying means it's like terrifying, but he wasn't scared down there. So I wouldn't say that. So what I would say the mood for this story, for that part of the story, was it murky and dreamlike. He was having this like weird dream that his mom was there or somebody was there. And so now we're going to find our evidence to support it. So A says, first, I had not been flattened into a pancake. I had not been barbecued. So, I mean, that's true. We'll see if that's what it is. Clouds of silt and disgusting garbage swirled around me. So that would tell me it's kind of murky. So that definitely could be part of my answers. I stood up, thigh deep in mud. My legs felt shaky. So that was once he was kind of out of it. Let's keep going. Then, through the gloom, I saw her, a woman, the color of water, a ghost in a current, floating just above my sword. So that reminds me of the dreamlike part, so I'm going to keep that one too. There was so much I wanted to ask, the words jammed up in my throat. That doesn't really tell us anything about the mood. So I would say these are the two details that tell me and that prove that the mood was murky and dreamlike. So that's what you're going to be practicing doing today with our scene today. All right. So we are on to chapter 15. This is a longer chapter, so once again, stick with me. I'm going to read it, and I want you to follow along, and we'll stop a few times to chat, and then you'll get to do your work at the end. All right, chapter 15. A god buys us cheeseburgers. The afternoon, June 14th, 7 days before the summer solstice, our train rolled into Denver. We hadn't eaten since the night before in the dining car, somewhere in Kansas. We hadn't taken a shower since Half-Blood Hill, and I was sure that was obvious. Let's try to contact Chiron, Annabeth said. I wanted to tell him about your talk with the river spirit. We can't use our phones, right? I'm not talking about phones. We wandered through the downtown for about half an hour, though I wasn't sure what Annabeth was looking for. The air was dry and hot, which felt weird after the humidity of St. Louis. Everywhere we turned, the Rocky Mountains seemed to be staring at me, like a tidal wave about to crash into the city. Finally, we found an empty, do-it-yourself car wash. We veered toward the stall farthest from the street, keeping our eyes open for patrol cars. We were 3 adolescents hanging out at a car wash without a car. Any cop worth his donuts would figure we were up to no good. What exactly are we doing? I asked as Grover took out a spray gun. It's 75 cents, he grumbled. I've only got 2 quarters left, Annabeth. Don't look at me, she said. The dining car wiped me out. I fished out my last bit of change and passed Grover a quarter, which left me 2 nickels and 1 drachma from Medusa's place. Excellent, Grover said. We could do it with a spray bottle, of course, but the connection isn't as good. My arm gets tired of pumping. What are you talking about? He fed the quarters into the knob to fine mist. IMing. Instant messaging? Iris messaging, Annabeth corrected. The rainbow goddess, Iris, carries messages for the gods. If you know how to ask, and she's not too busy, she'll do the same for half-bloods. You summon the goddess with a spray gun? Grover pointed the nozzle in the air, and the water hissed out in a thick white mist. Unless you know an easier way to make a rainbow. Sure enough, late afternoon, light filtered through the vapor and broke into colors. Annabeth held her palm out to me. Drachma, please. I handed it over. She raised the coin over her head. O goddess, accept our offering. She threw the drachma into the rainbow. It disappeared in a golden shimmer. Half-Blood Hill, Annabeth requested. For a moment, nothing happened. Then I was looking through the mist at strawberry fields and the Long Island Sound in the distance. We seemed to be on the porch of the big house. Standing with his back to us at the railing was a sandy-haired guy in shorts and an orange tank top. He was holding a bronze sword and seemed to be staring intensely at something down in the meadow. Luke! I called. He turned, eyes wide. I could swear he was standing 3 feet in front of me through a screen of mist, except I could only see part of him that appeared in the rainbow. Percy! His scarred face broke into a grin. Is that Annabeth too? Thank the gods. Are you guys okay? We're, fine, Annabeth stammered. She was madly straightening her dirty t-shirt, trying to comb out the loose hair out of her face. We thought he's down at the cabins. Luke's smile faded. We're having some issues with the campers. Listen, is everything cool with you? Is Grover all right? I'm right here, Grover called. He held the nozzle out to one side and stepped into Luke's line of vision. What kind of issues? Just then, a big Lincoln Continental pulled into the car wash with its stereo turned up to maximum hip-hop. As the car slid into the small stall, the bass from the subwoofers vibrated so much it shook the pavement. Chiron had to... What's that noise? Luke yelled. I'll take care of it, Annabeth yelled, looking very relieved to have an excuse to get out of sight. Grover, come on. What? Grover said. But... Give Percy the nozzle and come on, she ordered. Grover muttered something about the girls being harder to understand than an oracle at Delphi. Then he handed me the spray gun and followed Annabeth. I readjusted the hose so I could keep the rainbow going and still see Luke. Chiron had to break up a fight, Luke shouted to me over the music. Things are pretty tense here, Percy. Word leaked out about the Zeus and Poseidon standoff. We're still not sure how. Probably the same scumbag who summoned the Hellhound. Now the campers are starting to take sides. It's shaping up like the Trojan War all over. Aphrodite, Ares, and Apollo are backing Poseidon, more or less. Athena is backing Zeus. I shuddered to think that Clarice's cabin would ever be on my dad's side for anything. In the next stall, I heard Annabeth and some guy arguing with each other. Then the music's volume decreased drastically. So, what's your status? Luke asked me. Chiron will be sorry he missed you. I told him pretty much everything, including my dreams. It felt good to see him, to feel like I was back at camp, even just for a few minutes, and that I didn't realize how long I had talked until the beeper went off on the spray machine, and I realized I only had 1 more minute before the water shut off. I wish I could be there, Luke told me. We can't help much from here, I'm afraid, but listen, it had to be Hades who took the Master Bolt. He was there at Olympus at the winter solstice. I was chaperoning a field trip. We saw him. But Chiron said the gods can't take each other's magic items directly. That's true, Luke said, looking troubled. Still, Hades has his helm of darkness. How could anybody else sneak into the thorn room and steal the Master Bolt? You'd have to be invisible. We were both silent. Until Luke seemed to realize what he had said. Oh, hey, he protested. I didn't mean Annabeth. She and I have known each other forever. She would never, she's like a little sister to me. I wondered if Annabeth would like that description. In the stall next to us, the music stopped completely. A man screamed in terror, car doors slammed, and the Lincoln peeled out of the car wash. You'd better go see what that was, Luke said. Listen, are you wearing the flying shoes? I'll feel better to know if they've done you some good. Oh, yeah. I tried not to sound like a guilty liar. Yeah, they've come in handy. Really? He grinned. They fit and everything? The water shut off. The mist started to evaporate. Well, take care of yourself out there in Denver, Luke called, his voice getting fainter. And tell Grover it'll be better this time. Nobody will get turned into a pine tree if he just. But the mist was gone, and Luke's image faded to nothing. I was alone in a wet, empty car wash stall. Annabeth and Grover came around the corner laughing, but stopped when they saw my face. Annabeth's smile faded. What happened, Percy? What did Luke say? Not much, I lied, my stomach feeling as empty as the big three cabin. Come on, let's find some dinner. A few minutes later, we were sitting at a booth in a gleaming chrome diner. All around us, families were eating burgers and drinking malts and sodas. Finally, the waitress came over. She raised her eyebrows skeptically. Well, I said, we want to order dinner. You kids have money to pay for it? Grover's lower lip quivered. I was afraid he would start bleeding, or worse, start eating the linoleum. Annabeth looked ready to pass out of hunger. I was trying to think of a sob story for the waitress when the rumble shook the whole building. A motorcycle the size of a baby elephant had pulled up to the curb. All conversation in the diner stopped. The motorcycle's headlight glared red. Its gas tank had flames painted on it, and a shotgun holster riveted to either side, complete with shotguns. And the seat was leather, but the leather looked like, well, Caucasian human skin. The guy on the bike would have made pro wrestlers run for mama. He was dressed in a red muscle shirt and black jeans, and a black leather duster with a hunting knife strapped to his thigh. He wore red wraparound shades, and he had the cruelest, most brutal face I'd ever seen. Handsome, I guess, but wicked, with an oily black crew cut and cheeks that were scarred from many, many fights. The weird thing was, I felt like I'd seen his face somewhere before. As he walked into the diner, a hot, dry wind blew through the place. All the people rose, as if they were hypnotized, but the biker waved his hand dismissively, and they all sat down again. Everybody went back to their conversations. The waitress blinked as if somebody had just pressed the rewind button on her brain. She asked us again, "You kids have money to pay for it?" The biker said, "It's on me." He slid into our booth, which was way too small for him, and crowded Annabeth against the window. He looked up at our waitress, who was gaping at him, and said, "Are you still here?" He pointed at her. She stiffened. She turned as if she had spun around, then marched back towards the kitchen. The biker looked at me. I couldn't see his eyes behind the red shades, but I had bad feeling, started to boil in my stomach. Anger, resentment, bitterness. I wanted to hit a wall. I wanted to pick a fight with somebody. Who did this guy think he was? He gave me a wicked grin. "So, you're the Seaweeds kid, huh?" I should have been surprised or scared, but instead I felt like I was looking at my stepdad, Gabe. I wanted to rip this guy's heads off. "What's it to you?" Annabeth's eyes flashed me a warning. "Percy, this is..." The biker raised his hand. "It's okay," he said. "I don't mind a little attitude, long as you remember who's the boss. You know who I am, little cousin?" Then it struck me why this guy looked familiar. He had the same vicious sneer as some of the kids at Camp Half-Blood, the ones from Cabin 5. "You're Clarice's dad," I said. "Ares, god of war." Ares grinned and took off his shades. Where his eyes should have been, there was only fire, empty sockets glowing with miniature nuclear explosions. "That's right, punk. I heard you broke Clarice's spear." "She was asking for it." Probably. That's cool. I don't fight my kids' fights, you know. What I'm here for, I heard you were in town. I got a little proposition for you." The waitress came back with heaping trays of food, cheeseburgers, fries, onion rings, and chocolate shakes. Ares handed her a few gold drachmas. She looked nervously at the coins. "But these aren't..." Ares pulled out a huge knife and started cleaning his fingernails. "Problem, sweetheart?" The waitress swallowed, then left with the gold. "You can't do that," I told Ares. "You can't just threaten people with a knife." Ares laughed. "Are you kidding? I love this country. Best place since Sparta. Don't you carry a weapon, punk? You should. Dangerous world out there. Which brings me to my proposition. I need you to do me a favor." "What favor could I do you for a god?" "Something a god doesn't have time to do himself. It's nothing much. I left my shield at an abandoned water park here in town. I was going on a little date with my girlfriend. We were interrupted. I left my shield behind. I want you to fetch it for me. Why don't you go back and get it yourself? The fire in his eye sockets glowed a little hotter. Why don't I turn you into a prairie dog and run you over with my Harley? Because I don't feel like it. A god is giving you an opportunity to prove yourself, Percy Jackson. Will you prove yourself a coward? He leaned forward. Or maybe you only fight when there's a river to dive into, so your daddy can protect you. I wanted to punch this guy, but somehow I knew he was waiting for that. Ares' power was causing my anger. He'd love it if I attacked. I didn't want to give him that satisfaction. We're not interested, I said. We've already got a quest. Ares' fiery eyes made me see things I didn't want to see. Blood and smoke and corpses on the battlefield. I know all about your quest, punk. When the item was first stolen, Zeus sent his best out looking for it. Apollo, Athena, Artemis, and me, naturally. If I couldn't sniff out this weapon that powerful, he licked his lips as if the very thought of the Master Bolt made him hungry. Well, if I couldn't find it, you got no hope. Nevertheless, I'm trying to give you the benefit of the doubt. Your dad and I go way back. After all, I'm the one who told him my suspicions about old corpse breath. You told him Hades stole the bolt. Sure, framing somebody to start a war. Oldest trick in the book. I recognized it immediately. In a way, you got me to thank for your little quest. Thanks, I grumbled. Hey, I'm a generous guy. Just do my little job, and I'll help you on your way. I'll arrange for a ride west for you and your friends. We're doing fine on our own. Yeah, right. No money, no wheels, no clue what you're up against. Help me out, and maybe I'll tell you something you need to know. Something about your mom. My mom? He grinned. That got your attention. The water park is a mile west on Delancey. You can't miss it. Look for the Tunnel of Love ride. What interrupted your date? I asked. Something to scare you off? Ares bared his teeth, but I'd seen his threatening look before on Clarice. There was something false about it, almost like he was nervous. You're lucky you met me, punk. Not one of those other Olympians. They're not as forgiving of rudeness as I am. I'll meet you back here when you're done. Don't disappoint me. After that, I must have fainted, or fallen into a trance, because when I opened my eyes again, Ares was gone. I might have thought the conversation had been a dream, but Annabeth and Grover's expressions told me otherwise. Not good, Grover said. Ares sought you out, Percy. This is not good. I stared out of the window. The motorcycle had disappeared. Did Ares really know something about my mom, or was he just playing me? Now that he was gone, all the anger had drained out of me. I realized Ares must love to mess with people's emotions, and that was his power, cranking up the passion so badly they clouded your ability to think. It's probably some kind of trick, I said. Forget Ares. Let's just go. We can't, Annabeth said. Look, I hate Ares as much as anybody, but you don't ignore the gods unless you want a serious bad fortune. He wasn't kidding about turning you into a rodent. I looked down at my cheeseburger, which suddenly didn't seem so appetizing. Why does he need us? Maybe it's a problem that requires brains, Annabeth said. Ares has strength, but that's all he has. Even strength has to bow to wisdom sometimes. But this water park? He acted almost scared. What would make a war god run away like that? Annabeth and Grover glanced nervously at each other. Annabeth said, I'm afraid we'll have to find out. The sun was sinking behind the mountains by the time we found the water park. Judging from the sign, it once had read Waterland, but now the letters were smashed out, so it read Wat-er-ad. The main gate was padlocked and topped with barbed wire. Inside, huge dry water slides and tubes and pipes curled everywhere, leading to empty pools. Old tickets and advertisements fluttered around the asphalt. With the night coming on, the place looked sad and creepy. Pause. I meant to stop earlier. So why do you think, I want you to be thinking about this, what is the problem now that Percy and his friends have? What is the conflict that they have now? Right. They have to go to this Waterland and retrieve this shield for Ares. Otherwise, they're going to be in a whole world of trouble. So now they have another thing that they have to do before they can get on their way to their quest. So this isn't even part of their quest. I also want you to be thinking about, what did you notice that was similar about Aries and about Clarice? Because they had a lot of similarities. And now we're getting to Waterland, so we're going to be thinking about the setting. So as you're reading, I want you to be thinking about what the setting is and what the mood of this setting is. Okay, let's keep going. If Aries brings his girlfriend here for a date, I said, staring up at the barbed wire, I'd hate to see what she looks like. Percy, Annabeth warned, be more respectful. Why? I thought you hated Aries. He's still a god, and his girlfriend is very temperamental. You don't want to insult her looks, Grover added. Who is she? Echidna? No, Aphrodite, Grover said, a little dreamily. Goddess of love. I thought she was married to somebody, I said. Hephaestus. What's your point? He asked. Oh. I suddenly felt the need to change that subject. So how do we get in? Mea! Grover's shoes sprouted wings. He flew over the fence, did an unintended somersault in midair, and then stumbled into a landing on the opposite side. He dusted off his jeans as if he had planned the whole thing. You guys coming? Annabeth and I had to climb the old-fashioned way, holding down the barbed wire for each other as we crawled over the top. The shadows grew long as we walked through the park, checking out the attractions. There was an ankle-biter island, head over wedgie, and Dude, where's my swimsuit? No monsters came to get us. Nothing made the slightest noise. We found a souvenir shop that had been left open. Merchandise still lined the shelves. Snow globes, pencils, postcards, and racks of clothes, Annabeth said. Fresh clothes. Yeah, I said, but you can't just watch me. She snatched an entire row of stuff off the racks and then disappeared into the changing room. A few minutes later, she came out of Waterland, flower print shorts, a big red Waterland t-shirt, and a commemorative Waterland surf shoes. A Waterland backpack was slung over her shoulder, obviously stuffed with more goodies. What the heck? Grover shrugged. Soon, all three of us were decked out in walking advertisement for the defunct theme park. We continued searching for the Tunnel of Love. I got the feeling that the whole water park was holding its breath. So Aries and Aphrodite, I said, to keep my mind off of the growing dark. They have a thing going on. That's old gossip, Percy, Annabeth told me. 3,000-year-old gossip. What about Aphrodite's husband? Well, you know, she said, Hephaestus, the blacksmith. He was crippled when he was a baby, thrown off Mount Olympus by Zeus, so he isn't exactly handsome. Clever with his hands and all, but Aphrodite isn't into brains and talent, you know. So she likes bikers. Whatever. Hephaestus knows. Oh, sure, Annabeth said. He caught them together once. I mean, literally caught them together in a golden net and invited all the gods to come and laugh at them. Hephaestus is always trying to embarrass them. That's why they meet in out-of-the-way places like... She stopped, looking straight ahead. Like that. In front of them was an empty pool that would have been awesome for skateboarding. It was at least 50 yards across and shaped like a bowl. Around the rim, a dozen bronze statues of Cupid stood guard with wings spread and bows ready to fire. On the opposite side of us, a tunnel opened up, probably where the water flowed into the pool was full. The sign above it read, Thrill Ride O Love. This is not your parents' tunnel of love. Grover crept over the edge. Guys, look! Marooned at the top of the pool was a pink and white two-seater boat with a canopy over the top, little hearts painted all over. In the left seat, glinting in the fading light, was Ares' shield, a polished circle of bronze. This is too easy, I said. So we just walk down there and get it. Annabeth ran her fingers across the base of the nearest Cupid statue. There's a Greek letter carved here, she said. Etta, I wonder. Grover, I said, you smell any monsters? He sniffed. He sniffed the wind. Nothing. So pause. Grover has this way that he can see if there's any monsters. So there's not any monsters, so they're not really worried. Let's see what happens. Nothing like in the arch, and you didn't smell Echidna, nothing, or really nothing. Grover looked hurt. I told you, that was underground. Okay, I'm sorry. I took a deep breath. I'm going down there. I'll go with you. Grover didn't sound too enthusiastic, but I got the feeling that he was trying to make up for what happened in St. Louis. No, I told him. I want you to stay up top with the flying shoes. You're the Red Baron, a flying ace, remember? I'll be counting on you for backup in case something goes wrong. Grover puffed up his chest a little. Sure, but what could go wrong? I don't know, just a feeling. Annabeth, come with me. Are you kidding? She looked at me as if she had dropped from the moon. Her cheeks were bright red. What's the problem now? I demanded. Me go with you to the thrill of love? How embarrassing is that? What if somebody saw me? Who's going to see you? But my face was burning now, too. Leave it to a girl to make everything complicated. Fine, I told her. I'll do it myself. But when I started down the side of the pool, she followed me, muttering about how boys always mess things up. We reached the boat. The shield was propped on the one seat, and next to it was the lady's silk scarf. I tried to imagine Ares and Aphrodite here, a couple of gods meeting in a junked-out amusement park ride. Why? Then I noticed something I hadn't seen from up top. Mirrors all the way around the rim of the pool, facing the spot. We could see ourselves no matter which direction we looked, and that must be it. While Ares and Aphrodite were smooching with each other, they could look at their favorite people, themselves. I picked up the scarf. It shimmered pink, and the perfume was indescribable, rose or mountain laurel. Something good. I smiled a little dreamy and was about to rub the scarf against my cheek when Annabeth ripped it out of my hand and stuffed it in her pocket. Oh, no, you don't. Stay away from that love magic. What? Just get the shield, seaweed brain. Let's get out of here. The next moment, I touched the shield. I knew we were in trouble. My hand broke through something that had been connecting it to the dashboard. A cobweb, I thought. But then I looked at the strand on my palm and I saw it was some kind of metal filament. So fine, it was almost invisible. A tripwire. Wait, Annabeth said. Too late. There's another Greek letter on the side of the boat. Another ETA. Etta. This is a trap. The noise erupted all around us, of a million gears grinding, as the whole pool were turning into one giant machine. Grover yelled, Guys! Up on the rim, the Cupid statues were drawing their bows into firing position. Before I could suggest taking cover, they shot, but not at us. They fired at each other, across the rim of the pool. Silky cables trailed from the arrows, arching over the pool and anchoring where they landed, form a huge golden asterisk. The smaller metallic threads started weaving together magically between the main strands, making a net. We have to get out. Duh, Annabeth said. I grabbed the shield and we ran. But going up the slope of the pool was not as easy as going down. Come on, Grover shouted. He was trying to hold up the section of the net for us, but whenever he touched it, the golden threads started to wrap around his hands. The Cupids' heads popped open. There came out video cameras. Spotlights rose up all around the pool, blinding us with illumination, and a loudspeaker voice boomed. Live to Olympus in 1 minute, 59 seconds, 58. Pause. Who is this trap set up for? And who do you think set it up? So I agree, it's definitely probably set up for Aphrodite and Ares. So now, why? Who set this up? Let's keep going. Hephaestus, Annabeth screamed. I'm so stupid. ETA, Etta, is H. He made a trap to catch his wife with Ares. Now we're going to be broadcast live to Olympus and look like absolute fools. We'd almost made it to the rim when a row of mirrors opened like hatchets and thousands of tiny metallic things poured out. Annabeth screamed. So think about the mood right now. It was an army of wind-up creepy crawlies, bronze gear bodies, spiny legs, little pincer mouths all scuttling towards us in a wave of cackling, whirring metal. Spiders, Annabeth said. Ah! I'd never seen her like this before. She fell backward in terror and almost got overwhelmed by the spider robots before I pulled her up and dragged her back toward the boat. The things were coming out of all around the rim now, millions of them, flooding towards the center of the pool, completely surrounding us. I told myself they probably weren't programmed to kill, just corral us and bite us and make us look stupid. And then again, this was a trap meant for the gods, and we weren't gods. Annabeth and I climbed into the boat. I started kicking away the spiders as they swarmed aboard. I yelled at Annabeth to help me, but she was too paralyzed to do much than scream. 30, 29, called the loudspeaker. The spiders started spitting out strands of metal thread, trying to tie us down. The strands were easy enough to break at first, but there were so many of them, and the spiders just kept coming. I kicked one away from Annabeth's legs, and the pincers took a chunk out of my new surf shoe. Grover hovered above the pool in his fine sneakers, trying to pull the net loose, but it wouldn't budge. Think, I told myself, think. The tunnel of love entrance was under the net. We could use it as an exit, except that it was blocked by a million robot spiders. 15, 14, the loudspeaker called. Water, I thought. Where does the ride's water come from? Then I saw them. Huge water pipes behind the mirrors, where the spiders had come from. And above the net, next to one of the cupids, a glass-windowed booth that must be the controller station. Grover, I yelled, get into that booth. Find the on switch. But do it. It was a crazy hope, but it was our only chance. The spiders were all over the prow of the boat now. Annabeth was screaming her head off. I had to get us out of there. Grover was in the controller's booth now, slamming away at the buttons. So what does Percy want him to turn on? Let's find out. Five, 4. Grover looked up at me hopelessly, raising his hands. He was letting me know that he'd pushed every button, but still nothing was happening. I closed my eyes and thought about waves, rushing water, the Mississippi River. I felt a familiar tug in my gut. I tried to imagine that I was dragging the ocean all the way to Denver. 2, 1, 0. Water exploded out of the pipes. It roared into the pool, sweeping away the spiders. I pulled Annabeth into the seat next to me and fastened her seatbelt, just as the tidal wave slammed into our boat, over the top, whisking the spiders away and dousing us completely, but not capsizing us. The boat turned, lifted in the flood, and spun in circles around the whirlpool. The water was full of short circulating spiders. Some of them had smashing against the pool's concrete wall with such force they burst. Spotlights glared down at us. The Cupid cams were rolling, live to Olympus, but I could only concentrate on controlling the boat. I willed to ride the current to keep away from the wall. Maybe it was my imagination, but the boat seemed to respond. At least it didn't break into a million pieces. We spun around one last time, the water level now almost high enough to shred us against the metal net. The boat's nose turned toward the tunnel, and we rocketed through into the darkness. Annabeth and I held tight, both of us screaming, as the boat shot curls and hugged corners and took 45-degree plunges past pictures of Romeo and Juliet and a bunch of other Valentine's Day stuff. Then we were out of the tunnel, and the night air whistling through the hair as the boat barreled straight towards the exit. If the ride had been working order, we would have sailed off a ramp between the Golden Gates of Love and splashed down safely in the exit pool. But there was a problem. The gates of love were chained. So once again, another problem. How are they going to get out? 2 boats had been washed out of the tunnel before us and now piled up against the barricade. One submerged, the other cracked in half. Unfasten your seatbelt, I yelled to Annabeth. Are you crazy? Unless you want to get smashed to death. I strapped Aries' shield to my arm. We're going to have to jump for it. My idea was simple and insane. As the boat struck, we would use its force like a springboard to jump off the gate. I'd heard of people surviving car crashes that way, getting thrown 30 or 40 feet away from the accident. With luck, we would land in the pool. Annabeth seemed to understand. She gripped my hand as the gates got closer. On my mark, I said. No, on my mark. What? Simple physics, she yelled. Force times trajectory angle. Fine, I shouted. On your mark. She hesitated. Then yelled, now! Crack. Annabeth was right. If we jumped when I thought we should have, we would have crashed into the gates. She got us maximum lift. Unfortunately, that was a little more than we needed. Our boat smashed into the pileup, and we were thrown into the air, straight over the gates, over the pool, and down towards solid asphalt. Something grabbed me from behind. Annabeth yelled, "Ouch! Grover!" In midair, he had grabbed me by the shirt and Annabeth by the arm and was trying to pull us out of Crash Landing. But Annabeth and I had all the momentum. "You're too heavy," Grover said. "We're going down." We spiraled toward the ground, Grover doing his best to slow the fall. We smashed into the photo board, Grover's head going straight into a hole where tourists would put their faces, pretending to be Nunu, the friendly whale. Annabeth and I tumbled onto the ground, banged up but alive. Aries' shield was still on my arm. Once we caught our breath, Annabeth and I got Grover out of the photo board and thanked him for saving our lives. I looked back at the thrill ride of love. The water was subsiding. The boat had been smashed into pieces against the gate. 100 yards away, at the entrance pool, the Cupids were still filming. The statues had swiveled so that their cameras were trained straight on us, the spotlights in our faces. "Show's over," I yelled. "Thank you, good night." The Cupids turned back to original positions. The lights shut off, the park went quiet and dark again, except for the gentle trickle of water into the thrill rides of love exit pool. I wondered if Olympus had gone to a commercial break or if our ratings had been any good. I hated being teased. I hated being tricked. And I had plenty of experience handling bullies who liked to do that kind of stuff to me. I hefted the shield on my arm and turned to my friends. "We need to have a little talk with Aries." So, Aries set them up for this, and, or may have set them up for this. I guess, I don't know. But Aries did this, and now they got all that information up on there. So I want you to think about the setting at Waterland. So I want you to choose one of the words you would use to describe it. Was it gaudy and bright? Was it chaotic and loud? Was it dreamlike and romantic? Or was it run down and eerie? And then you need to find 2 details to support your answer. We will start next week with chapter 16. So we are more than halfway done with our book. We only have about a week and a half left. So get excited to keep reading. All right. Talk to you later. Have a good weekend.